All right, you ready, Chels?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to 1,000 Ways to Have a Happy Marriage, Relationship, or whatever you want to call
Whatever.
it. Today, we have Carole and Mike. And Joe calls them Mr. and Mrs. B.
Yeah.
They are longtime family friends of Joe. So welcome, Carole and Mike. Thank you guys so much for being here.
I'm so excited. You guys are the longest together couple that we've had on so far.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Wow. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not.
So we'll go around the room of what we're drinking, and then we'll have our guests of honor tell us a little bit about themselves.
All right, do you want to go first?
Sure. I'm having pineapple and a little bit of rum. It's more pineapple than rum.
That's a good breakfast drink.
It's a little early here to be drinking, so.
I know, we put Chelsea on the worst schedule because most of us are on the continental United States, so she's like up at like 9 a.m. drinking booze.
But it's okay now because like husband can tag team the baby. So
Yeah.
if we didn't have a baby, I'd probably be like 5 drinks in during quarantine. But the baby tends to dictate that not happening.
That's right. What about you guys? Are you guys sipping on anything this fine Saturday afternoon?
An Nalgene full of water.
Woo-hoo!
Delicious. Nice and healthy. I love it.
Hydrated. It's
The
important.
allergies are just horrendous. The springtime, and so it's like you take your Sudafed and then you can't talk because your mouth's so dry.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
with the virus, it is the worst time to have allergies. Because I like go out for walks, and right now we have all the plumerian trees blooming, and there's just like pollen everywhere, and I'm like sneezing, and I swear I get like death looks every time. And I'm like, it's just the allergies, I swear.
People do. You hear somebody coughing and you're like, what kind of cough is that? I'm going to need you to back up, sir, ma'am. Well, I am over here. I'll show you guys. I am drinking some Blue Moon, a nice Saturday afternoon beer.
Did you squeeze your orange down in?
Huh?
Did you squeeze your orange down in it?
I usually do, but we actually don't have any. I only had lemons and limes, and I was like, eh. I don't know if a lemon would, yeah, I don't know.
No, it's better just to go without it.
Yeah, but I do love a good Blue Moon. They make this mango one. I don't know if you guys like beer, but they make this mango one that is like so good. It shocked me. It blew my mind. But if you're ever in the market for a fun beer that's a little sweet, it's a good one.
All right, so Carole, Mike, do you want to go and tell us about your guys' relationship, how long you've been together, and just introduce yourselves?
Sure. You want to start?
You can start.
Oh. I'm going to have to force him to talk.
That's okay.
I don't know if it's a balance or what, but I'm the chatty one and he's the quiet one. But anyway, we have been married 39 years, but we have been a couple for 45. Yeah, 45.
That is crazy.
I know. It's like more than half my lifetime. It's like, whoa. But we met in high school. I was thinking about, I always say we were high school sweethearts, but it's like we met in the last 2 months of high school.
Aww.
So I call it high school sweethearts. And then I moved out of state the day after graduation. So we had like a 6-year long distance romance, if you will. He went to school in Ohio and I went to school, everywhere. I have a checkered college career.
You're a permanent academic.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm working on my master's right now. So yeah. So that was, so it was kind of like 6 years of letters and phone calls and visits, and then when we got married, it's kind of like, okay, now I get to know who you are.
Oh.
So we were married 8 years before we had kids. And then we had 4 kids. So my 30s were all my childbearing years, unlike most people or some people in the 20s. So after graduation, well, after Mike graduated, I still, he graduated in 79 and moved to Columbus, where we live now. And he's worked for
Columbus, Indiana.
Yes.
Yeah, Columbus, Indiana.
Yes.
I like how he's like, not Ohio. He
Yeah.
came in real quick.
From
with that.
Ohio. We call this Columbus West in the family.
Okay.
Yeah, he's worked for Cummins for 40 years now. And we married in 81. I mean, literally, you know, it's like crazy things. It's like we got married. I graduated from college on one Saturday. The next Saturday I got married.
It was quick. Busy.
And then came to Columbus, and we were here for 16 years, and then that's when we moved to England, and that's when we met Joe.
That's where we met. I wore this shirt today in honor of...
Yay! Bravo!
I was like, the only other people probably in the whole wide world who I can wear the shirt around and they actually know what it's from.
I have my hat that I keep in Luigi.
Love it.
Luigi, Chelsea is my Fiat with a rag top, and so occasionally you need a hat. So I've got my hat that has the logo on it. But, yeah,
I love it.
boy.
That's so fun. I couldn't throw it away, so I was like, you know what? I'll turn it into a gym shirt. There we go.
Where we met for nearly 10, and now we're back.
Wow.
Awesome.
I'm working for the same company.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, after homeschooling, I homeschooled all my kids all the way through, and
I was homeschooled.
Yes. And then, which is how we met. It's Cedar Green.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That little homeschooling group. That was the best homeschooling group.
It was. Yeah, and so here we are.
That's so much. I mean, so much life lived together. I mean, you guys have been married longer than I've been alive. Obviously. Obviously. But like it's just crazy. Like that many years you spent as a couple. Like that's just, I can only imagine what the bond must be. Like.
Yeah. I mean, you gonna say something?
No, I was just going to say, just kind of filling in, our kids are all grown and gone. So we're now empty nesters, whatever you want to call it.
Newlyweds again.
I like that.
They're all doing their thing somewhere else in the United States.
All right. So let's get to question 1. And I'm actually super excited to hear what you guys have to say about this. What is the most important skill to have in a marriage?
Go ahead, Michael, because I was thinking it's so skilled. It's like can you cook? Can you tear down an engine?
I said I took the skill as being much broader than just skill, and I said that it's patience, understanding, and unconditional love.
Okay.
And when I talk about unconditional love, it's not what the majority of people think about when they talk about unconditional. It's about love. For me, unconditional love is exactly what everybody has read at their wedding, which is 1 Corinthians 13, the passage about what love really is. And it's all those things. It's being selfish, unselfish. It's being all of the things that go into an unconditional love. It's the best way for me to describe it is an unconditional love means that no matter what the other person does, you're still going to love them. No matter how rotten they are, no matter how critical they are, no matter how they screw up, I still love them in that unconditional sense. Yeah. And it's all the easiest way to think about it for me is just look at what God did for us when he sent his only son to die for us. He didn't have to do that. We were crappy people. We do all kinds of bad things, and yet he still loves us unconditionally. No matter what we can't ever do anything bad enough for him not to love us. And that's the kind of attitude you need to go into a marriage with, and not just go into with, but continue through the whole marriage. is keeping that unconditional love. As a matter of fact, one time I had some time to think, and I thought about, okay, what could Carole do that would make me not love her anymore? And I couldn't think of anything. And I went through all the bad things that, happen and can happen in your life. And we've had some bad things happen in our lives. And neither one of us is perfect, so we've always done bad things to each other, if you will. But yet, there's nothing that I could think of that would say, okay, I don't love her anymore. And so it's kind of weird for me to think of people who get a divorce, if you will, because they don't love somebody anymore. So obviously they didn't go into the relationship with an unconditional love attitude, if you will. So for me, but they all kind of twine together. The unconditional love is the overarching thing. Patience, understanding, all that kind of fall under that unconditional love. And like I said, it's all the things in 1 Corinthians 13 that lots of people have read at their wedding, but they don't pay any attention to that. And
Well,
they
it's
don't.
just so
I wasn't so foolish.
It's an excellent verse to have read. You just need to take it to heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where it all comes back to that. And one minute real quick. It's perfect. It says, love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it's not rude, it's not self-seeking, it doesn't easily anger, it keeps no report of wrong. Love does not delight in evil or rejoices in the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. And the interesting one for me is it keeps no record of wrong. I think that's the part of that. And
That's a hard one.
yeah, it's all balled up in that unconditional love, but it's not keeping a record. It's not, okay, I'm going to be mad at you and then get over it. No, it's gone. Once it's gone, it's gone.
And it's not bringing things back up again.
Yes, that's a real thing.
That forgiveness piece where like when you forgive, and I think something that is super important with that is like communication about where you are in that forgiveness process. Do you know what I mean? Like, and not harping on it and bringing it up, just like being clear with your partner, like, like I still have like some issues and I'm still dealing with some pain from this, but like I love you and like I'm working on it and I'm moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing too is that it's got to come from both ways. And I do want to I'm going to back up just a second and say, if we don't believe that anyone, male or female, man or woman or whatever, or, in a partnership should put up with abuse. There's,
Of course.
So this is not to say that you should stay there if you're being beaten on a regular basis. No.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
This is in the context of, of just a marriage that's, fairly healthy and whole and, and it's life. I mean, life throws you all kinds of curves. I mean, right now, they're talking about how, relationships, there's a lot more domestic issues because we're all trapped together in the same house. And if you don't have good coping skills, and good communication, it's going to get bad fast.
Or a good therapist.
Well, yeah, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes to help you, bridge the gaps.
Yep. And I like that phrase, whatever it takes,
Yeah, definitely. And with anything, just disclaimer, if you are in an abusive, whether it's emotional, physical, like mental, sexual, financial, abusive situation, do not think that, like, I know some people use religion to stay in, like, no. Like, get out. Like, try to get as much help as you can. I know it's harder than...
You can email us. We will help you get help. 1000waysnetwork@gmail.com.
Yeah. It's not worth staying, and it's not a marriage worth saving.
Mhm.
or a
This is- I
relationship
think,
worth
yeah.
saving.
This is definitely in the context of, I think, just a relatively healthy marriage where you're having conflict. And I think that's something that us as a younger generation, we struggle with. And you can say for whatever reason you want to. There's 1,000 of them, I'm sure. But like, I think there's something that we struggle with about when things are not working. There's a desire to want to end and move on to something that will work, which it's a challenge. I mean, like I said, for whatever reason, there's something in us that has that like, oh, I don't like it, so I'm going to go do something else because I know it's going to work out. And it's a challenge to stay focused.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of that is how our society has changed. I mean, once women started working, in the factories in World War II and realizing that, that they could be self-sufficient or they could take care of themselves, that whole narrative about, everybody had to get married and everybody was going to live happily ever after and have, 8-10 kids and, and which is not to say that isn't right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also right for a couple to not have kids and to have 2 careers and, and to live that way. I think that's the thing we want to cookie cutter every relationship.
And it doesn't work that
you
way.
You can't do that. I mean, one of the things that, when you're, and again, there are things that are right for some and not right for others. But when you are in a group of people, when you're homeschooling and you're a Christian and you're hanging out with Christian homeschoolers, and I love them all. I mean, I have friends who have like literally 11 children, and some have 13.
Oh my gosh.
I have friends who have 1, and but there's always that, and again, we're talking about religion is not an excuse to stay in a bad marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And but there is that portion, that slice of society, or that society that says, you need to be this way. And if you just do these things, then your husband will, see that in you, and it's all going to be peaches and cream, and it's going to be wonderful. And I'm like, I tried to buy that for a while, and what I found is it just made things, it made me feel more discontented.
Yes.
And I think when we're always looking outside our marriage for some sort of a pattern that we can shove ourselves into that's going to make it all wonderful, that's when things go wrong.
Yes.
I mean, I'm always my brain. I'm like a browser with 10,000 tabs open.
Me too.
Yeah. But I watch these. Occasionally you see these crazy people that they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a wedding, and I'm like, well, that'll last about an hour and a half. Because the focus is on the outward appearance,
Mm-hmm.
And not the actual relationship.
Is inward. It's between the two of you. So I always used to joke that we had, before we moved to England, we lived on a property that had to be mowed. It was 4 acres, and I was home. I was homeschooling. We had little ones. Then I had like a kindergarten at that time. But it was kind of one of those things where he was working, and then he was also doing leading a Bible study for about 150 men, and had to do like tons of extra. It was like a part-time job. And so we fell into this. I mowed the grass because it took 4 hours to mow the grass.
Good grief.
And he did the laundry, and so from the get-go, I was not going to be able to relate to those, if you just, bake and cook and do all this stuff.
It doesn't work for you guys.
And it took me a long time to realize, what? The only person I should be talking to is my husband, not my good friend who has 12 children or 5 children or whatever, and and has all these books, which always blew my mind. They were written by men. I'm like,
Girl.
So anyway, so that's, but again, driving back to what Mike was saying, it is about the unconditional love, and it is hard because number one, we're not geared that way, and you're right, Joe. I think that it is easy for people now because you've got your, you've got all the tools that you need to live self-sufficiently.
Mhm.
And adding a relationship, you can see that as just something else you've layered in that
Yeah.
can be as disposable as moving apartments.
Yeah.
Or you look at it from the point of, I have chosen this man, I have chosen this woman above all others to commit to. And we're going to commit regardless of the stuff that gets thrown in our path,
Yeah.
and you partner together, and
I think you hit the nail on the head for that one, because that always is like in the back of my mind. That's always like the thought is, I'm like, I could just do this by myself.
It's easier to do it by yourself than with a partner.
Yeah.
The other thing that's interesting is about partnering is again a verse almost everybody has in their wedding is the two will become one flesh,
Mm-hmm.
and it's more than just sex. It's becoming one entity.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think about this when I was looking through the questions about what the difference between a team and the two becoming one flesh are, because it's different. They're a lot similar. They're a team, but somehow they're joined in a way that is different. And I think the difference is a team comes together for a specific goal. Like you have a baseball team, or at work you have a team that's going to pull together X. In a marriage, that team comes together for a lifetime, no matter what the problem is, no matter what. We're not going to change teams if we have a new problem. We're going to do this all as one, and we need to act as one, not in two separate entities. And a lot of times people go into a marriage with, well, I'm going to keep my account, I'm going to keep my this, I'm going to keep my that. And that's not right or wrong, but it is in the context of, are you really becoming one entity at that point? Or are you still keeping that individual as, okay, we're going to be two separate bodies that are living together? Or is it, no, we're one unit, no matter what that means, and that means lots of different things to lots of different people. But going into a marriage, you need to go in with, we're going to become one unit, and we're going to try to think together. We're going to try to do not necessarily everything together, but we're going to have this common goal out there of the relationship that we're going to be working toward the whole time as a unit, not as two individuals out here. And it's not saying that we don't have our individual talents and things we do and all that. It's the greater good that we come together as a single unit. And that's what that relationship pulls together, is that oneness in that relationship. So, it's all about that oneness pulling together and being like one, as opposed to, well, I've got my stuff, and always in the back of your mind thinking, well, I can get out of this. No, you can't. You just glued yourself together to this person, and
you done did it.
And that's the attitude to go into. Now, if something happens, and again, back to, we're not saying in an abusive relationship.
Of course.
You have to go in to that relationship not thinking, I can get out of this. No, you can't. You're stuck. You're stuck. And because you become that one unit. And so it's more pulling together. That's why it's not like a team, in that you can say, well, I don't want to be on this team anymore. I want to go.
Yeah, you can't. You're not. Well, in theory, right? You're both supposed to have that investment in the partnership, right?
Yeah.
That's the idea. We've invested this many years with each other, so like, let's not like ruin it this time, or let's not blow it up this. That's like, all right.
Yeah. That we were talking the other day, and it's like, it's been 45 years, and it seems like yesterday in so many ways. And maybe it's because of our youth, it's like we've always it seems like we've always been together, even though, I know we haven't, um, but yeah, it's just it's this new thing, and you become different, and you become,
your husband or wife become a part of your identity.
Yeah.
So it's no longer just me standing here all by myself. It's the two of us standing here, and that's a little bit of what it means to be one. Is our identities are in each other as well as in ourselves. So it's kind of a strange way to work, but once you kind of get that in your head, then moving together forward is a little easier. Mm-hmm. Not that it's ever easy, but it's harder to tear it apart. And it was interesting one time, somebody used an analogy about gluing two pieces of wood together. If you glue two pieces of wood together, they become one entity at that point. And when you rip them apart, it doesn't rip at the seam where the glue is. It normally takes a piece of the other piece of wood off and so that's kind of what this all means, is that even if you rip it apart, that portion is still a part of you. You can't rip it apart.
It's still there.
Something's going to be lost in that whole thing, lost from one and gained from another, both directions. And so it's just that oneness that you need to go into a relationship knowing that 45 years from now, you're still going to be in that relationship.
That's right.
And so what does that mean? That means lots of different things, and it means a whole different mindset than going in thinking, okay, I can always get a divorce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's completely wrong mindset, because if you go in that way, you'll end up with a divorce because it's easy out. I get out of this. It's kind of like a contract, you can get out of real easy. Well, this is going to be real easy to get out of. I'll sign the papers. Yeah. I can get out of this contract real easy. No, it can't be that mindset you go into.
Fortunately, and go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, even if you do, go down the road and you divorce, I mean, whether it's because of just a choice or because you've moved out of an abusive relationship or whatever, you still have all that was is still a part of who you are. Mm-hmm. And it's going to color every decision you make, and you're going to look back on it both probably because whenever I hear somebody divorcing, I always feel sad, because I thought, this was a marriage that started out hopeful, and so what happened? And what did they need to do or didn't need to do, or should they have married in the first place?
Yeah. Okay. Well, while Chelsea is in the bathroom, I love all of what you guys are saying. I think it's like a super interesting perspective. And like I said, you guys are the longest couple we've had so far. And so the wisdom is being absorbed. All right. So question number 2, what is the worst habit to bring into a relationship?
Probably disregard for your partner. Disregard of their thoughts and their feelings. Basically, your own self-absorption, if you will.
Yeah.
I'm always right. I do what I want. It could be anything. It could be somebody who just, takes their clothes off and chucks them on the floor and doesn't put them in the hamper. I mean, it could be something as simple as that to, I've always gone out to drink on the weekends with the guys and drink till I'm blind. So you're just going to have to put up with it. And not thinking about the fact that now this relationship, you have someone who's at home worrying about whether you're going to get home safe or not.
Right.
Who wouldn't who would be happy to support that, but knows that if something catastrophic happens, it happens to both of them. I mean, right. It's just stuff like that. I mean, it's just this disregard or maybe it falls into thinking that your life isn't going to be any different once you get married. It's like, how can you add someone to your life and not think it's going to be different?
I know. That's true.
My answer was the same thing. Selfishness is what I called it. Is that you're looking out for yourself and not for the relationship.
Yeah.
Again, it's back to, if you will, see above for the answer, because it's a fact that you haven't absorbed the fact that you're now one with that person. So you can't have this selfishness in your life that doesn't consider the other part of that relationship.
Yeah.
You do, and that's when all the trouble happens within any relationship. When you don't consider that oneness, then you go back and become selfish, and then, okay, well, he does this or she does that or they do this, and bam, that creeps in. And that's what really the kind of where I think is that it's always the selfishness that gets us into trouble. You look at any argument you've had with your spouse, and it's because you were selfish, not they were selfish, because what you're always going to say is, well, it's their selfishness is what the problem is. No, it's because you're selfish about whatever's happening at that moment.
About what they're being selfish about.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
it's a vicious circle.
Yeah, it's a vicious circle. But if you can realize when you're being selfish and when you need to come back to the relationship and say, okay, it's about both of us. It's not about you, not about me. It's about, then that will help reset things a little bit.
That's similar what our last husband also said. He said that was something that was really important to him. He was like, something just as simple as picking your wife up a snack when you're going to pick yourself up a snack. Cause like, yeah, probably you want a snack too. Like just thinking in those terms, like it's an us thing now.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, I think, selfishness. I'm a Leo, so like by nature, we're very egocentric. So I've been challenged, but hey, I've risen to the challenge.
I mean, and I think that's what I think is interesting is how you see patterns in marriages or in personalities when they come together. The whole thing about opposites attract, and I don't know if that's true or not, but in a lot of ways, I see that in our marriage too. Mike is much more. He's very quiet, but he just does things and that are always like little surprises to me. I mean, this is going to sound hilarious, but it's like I know that every day when I open my drawer, there's going to be clean underwear in it.
But that's a real thing.
And
it's important.
And that is just
it matters.
I mean, because with me working full time and going to school, I just feel like I have absorbed all the energy in this house. Mm-hmm. It's terrible. I just sit in front of my computer 24/7, especially now that we're working from home. And there's just little things like that where he does things that always surprise me. I mean, and even if it's just one pair, if
they're there.
They're there. And
yeah,
that's thoughtful. Like he's obvious. Like there's something that's been programmed. Like he can think, all right, at least we can get one pair in. Yeah.
Right, and I think that the problem that a lot of relationships have is the neither partner, neither spouse is watchful and learning. The easiest way for me to think about this is I've got a technical background, so all this augmented reality that's going on right now, where they want the robot to think for you and all that sort of stuff going on. That's what ought to be happening as you grow in your relationship. So year one, I didn't know as much as I do year 2 and year 3 and year 4. But as the relationship grows and we grow, we take what we learned in year 1 and use that for year 2, and year 2 for year 3, and year 3 for year 4, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's constantly learning what is needed at that point. So you've watched this relationship, you've watched your partner, you've studied. I'll go so far as to say you've studied your partner to the point where you now know what they need, expect, whatever it is that's going to happen. So there shouldn't be a lot of surprises going on in your relationship. The first couple of years, lots of things, because you're learning. But as you grow in that relationship, you begin to watch what's happening, cause and effect.
Yeah.
It's what this whole augmented reality is, when the robots are going to learn all this stuff from you. When you do this, supposed to do this and all that. That's what a marriage should be, not that sterile is augmented reality. But you should be learning every day. Every day is a learning day. You should be studying your partner as much as you would anything else.
Yeah.
So question 3, how do you keep things, and I'm actually interested to hear, because I feel like, well, let me ask you guys a question first and then I'll talk later. How do you keep things intimate after years together?
I think, again, see above.
Yeah.
I think it comes out of that love and the relationship building. Again, it builds on itself. You watch somebody, you know somebody. The longer you're with them, the more you know them, and the more you know kind of what they need and what they don't need in certain situations. And so the intimacy comes out of that unconditional love.
Mm-hmm.
It's a giant loop for me, because as I was answering these questions, it's like, okay, that's what I just answered.
It all comes back.
It all comes back to that unconditional love.
Because the intimacy comes out of the love,
Mm-hmm.
not out of, okay, let's do this on this day or whatever. It's really more, it's still, I'll call it spontaneous, based on that love, that unconditional love.
And I also think too, it's about communicating, open communication about what your needs are, what your likes are, what your, I mean, we had some hurdles because I experienced some sexual abuse when I was young. So, and it never even occurred to me that something that happened so long ago, and not, and we're, if there's a degrees of sexual abuse, I don't even know what they are. I mean, it was a stranger, or not a stranger, it was my dentist. But you don't even anticipate that being a problem until it's a problem.
Exactly.
And, and so it's like, that communication is really important.
I'm sorry, Carole, that you had experienced that. I wish I could just be like, why do people do this?
Oh, I know. But it's one of those things too, where we've always said that it's not what happens to you, it's how you react to it that matters. And so we've always, it's like, okay, it happened, it's awful, let's take a lesson from it and move on. And so as a result, it has allowed me to be very vocal, in talking with people and not being afraid to ask someone who I think, are you okay? What's going on? That kind of thing. So again, it's one of those, it's an observation thing, being able to voice that to Mike gave him information that he could then, retool his thinking, retool his approaches, whatever you want to call it. I think the other thing too is that intimacy isn't just, leaping into bed. Intimacy is, that's the touch on the shoulder.
Always what I've said is that, like, intimacy, sometimes sex isn't as intimate as your everyday life.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
To keep that, it's like very fine line. Sometimes sex is less intimate than cooking dinner together, just the two of you.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and it's just, that's exactly right. And it's in realizing too that sex is kind of like, it's the frosting on the cake.
And you gotta have the cake, otherwise you just got a mouthful of frosting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no one likes that.
And it's, and it's just, it has no form, it has no function, it has no It doesn't decorate your relationship.
It doesn't even taste that good.
Well, I don't know. Mike says that the cake is just the carrier for frosting.
Oh, I'm the opposite.
I don't know.
Too much frosting, I'm like,
at the
ugh.
same time, you know, there's so many other things that lead up to that intimacy in.
Absolutely.
If you're having a bad day, it's like there is nothing in the world that's going to make that pleasurable.
Right.
No.
Right. Because it's just, I mean, a teething child. It's just like everybody, if you've got a kid who's not sleeping at night or whatever, all you want to do is just fall into bed and
be alone.
Hug each other.
Yeah, like just relax.
Go to sleep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, but it's, so yeah, that's, I think that's how you do it. I mean, and as you age, you change. I mean, I've gone through menopause, and so there's all sorts of challenges with that. So it's finding out what can I do to make this better. What thing, and if you need medical intervention or whatever, then that's what you do.
It is such an adventure being a woman, I tell you what. All right. Question number 4. Oh, this is my favorite question. All right. How do you know when to stand your ground or when to compromise?
I'm thinking about, like standing my ground. What am I standing my ground about? I want a new car, or something like that. If we're making a big decision, we just determined that we would, literally, we pray about it for 3 days. We don't talk about it. We just say, we do all our research, whatever, and then come together and make the decision. Sometimes it goes yes, sometimes it goes no, but we're all good with it. In standing your ground, I don't know. I don't even know that we've ever had a point where we were that.
I don't know that we've ever gotten to that point because answers above.
Right.
Yeah, because we're in a relationship where the relationship is one, and we're trying to work as one. It now isn't a you, me, it is what's best for the relationship.
Yeah.
And so it's not about standing my ground or her ground, it's what's best for the relationship.
Which you guys determined together as a unit.
Correct.
Right.
Yes. So a number of years ago, Cummins walked away from the term compromise and use two-forced thinking instead. Same thing. Huh. But it was really about taking what you're thinking and what I'm thinking and put that together to come to a third solution, as opposed to compromise being you're giving something up.
Right.
Okay.
And you are kind of, sort of, depending on how you look at that. But you come to a third solution, which is what you can call it compromise, but you've really gone to another solution.
Okay.
So it could be completely different from what you thought or I thought. We came to a third solution that was a different solution. So a bit of that has to go on, I think, in that you don't, because the minute you say you compromised, you're back to being selfish. I gave something up. And so that's where you need to be careful. I would say if we ever have had something where we didn't want to come, would look at the situation and say, okay, for us, this is better than this, and try to get to that different solution.
Yeah. There's times when and I can't even tell you what the instance was. I can remember the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And it had to do with John. And I was like, but, and I'm like, but this, and this. And I think we should do this because this is the right thing to do. Dad tends to be more, they'll figure it out, he'll be fine. I tend to be more, I'm a pushover, a little bit of a pushover. So if you
all moms are.
I know. Yeah. And so there are times when, I've said, maybe maybe it was around, hey, I think that kid needs some face time with parents. So how about if we, go to Mississippi for the weekend, which is like, it's a haul. It is a haul. But it's stuff like that when they were in college, I think especially. I want to drive 10 hours,
Yeah.
two way, both ways, and but you again communicate. It's
Communication, it's like the number one thing you need.
And it's a tool that you've got to sharpen through the years. I tell you what. Let's do it. This is the big one. This is the final question. How do you have a happy marriage? Because you guys certainly have one, and it's been going strong for a long time.
Again, see above.
See above.
See above. Unconditional love, communication.
When I think about, thinking about how, where we started, what we've been through, and Joe knows, that, or maybe she doesn't. I don't know.
I do know, yeah.
One of our 4 died very tragically. And and it's just like there's so many things. I can remember when that happens, I had somebody contacted us. It was like, as a stranger, and they said, hey, we've been through this. We just want you to understand the statistics that 85% of marriages in which a child is lost
And in divorce, yep.
And I decided at that moment, and I was not going to let that happen.
It's beautiful.
So it's like, what do you need to do to keep that rolling and get through those hard times? Because, there are hard times. There are times that are going to seem insurmountable. Right now, how many people are without income? How many people are ill, and they're separated from their loved ones because they're ill. It seems like a gargantuan commitment, but I think that it's possible. And I really think it's possible. And I think that you don't have to feel as if it's a burden to stay in a marriage that's being challenged. It's about the two of you saying, okay, we're going to sort this out, and it's going to be hard. And you might yell at me, and I might yell at you. That doesn't change the way I feel about you.
Yeah.
And I think in time, it is, and I wouldn't. It's kind of like your marriage should be like breathing. It should be so comfortable. It should be like breathing.
Should be your safe place, your home base.
Yeah, your home base.
Yeah. It's like you said. You become this new entity, and I think that's what makes a happy marriage, is that you just are this unit.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for our unit, because there's a lot of things that it's like, there's a lot of things he brings to it, like sensibility and practicality, and
you bring the whimsy and the splash of color.
and it works for us.
Oh, that's perfect. That's so sweet.
So I would just.
I think the key is to enjoy the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's hard, and I'm not going to say that it's not hard. It is to keep that relationship together, but I think you need to enjoy that relationship. You need to enjoy each other, and I think you need to depend on each other. Again, it's back to that unconditional love. It's about being one unit, so that when you have a crappy day, you can come home to that one unit, and okay, they're going to know, okay, he had a crappy day or she had a crappy day. I need to somehow make that better. So it's like going home. It's like going home to your parents. That's the best analogy I can give you.
Yeah.
A good parent, a good home. The safest place you can go, no matter how old you are, is go home. I mean, and that becomes a safe place, and that needs to be where you come to your one relationship with your spouse.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. I wasn't sure if you guys, and I certainly wasn't going to bring it up about, your other child, but I just have to say I'm aware of that statistic. And I mean, so much respect, so much admiration. That is an insane, as an adult now, you know, being able to appreciate what it is you guys experienced. I'm like speechless. Like, I don't know how you did it. It's amazing.
To add to that, we actually pegged the stress meter in our marriage, in our lives, because our daughter passed away, and less than 6 months later, we made an international move.
I did not realize it was so soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was back to work the first week back to work after she died. They asked him to come to England.
Yeah. The woman that knew me and needed help in England said, I know the situation. I know this isn't probably good timing, but do you want to move to the UK? And
you did?
We did.
Yeah.
And then less than a year later, her sister and her dad passed away. Her sister was killed in a plane crash. And a few months later, my father passed away of cancer. So in the first year and a half after our daughter died, we had lots of turmoil in our relationship.
A lot of trauma.
We did everything that you could. I mean, if you go to the little stress meters that say, "Did this happen? And did this happen? And did this happen?"
Like yes.
Exactly. So when we moved to, probably the most stressful portion of our relationship, I'd have to say, is when we lived in the UK.
Yeah.
At least the first 2 or 3
Yeah,
years.
because I was in a bad job situation, a horrible job situation, I'll say, as well. So not only did we make an international move, not only did we have a child die, but I was also in a situation where it was a horrible place to go to work. And so there were lots of things. So I would have to say, persevere. For those that think you've got it bad, you probably do, and there are worse people out there than us, and I'll admit that. But you need to persevere. You need to keep going. You need to say, okay, this is crappy, but is our relationship crappy? Not all the rest of the stuff going on around you, because I think that's what a lot of people end up doing, is they look at what's going on around them and say, boy, this is really crappy. I think I'm going to get a divorce.
Yeah.
Well, no.
That's not going to make it better.
That's not going to make it better, but it's not your relationship that's the problem. It's all the stuff that's feeding into that relationship that forces you to look at the relationship differently, and you shouldn't.
Yeah.
You need to keep focused on that relationship, which is different than my work relationship, the relationship I've got or don't have anymore, my mourning process that I've got with a child dying, and all that stuff going on. That's not the relationship. And I think that's where everybody takes their eyes off the relationship and starts focusing on, look at all this crappy stuff going on. Well, Carole didn't cause that crappy situation. It wasn't her fault that it was kind of her fault we moved to England, but that's another story. But
that's true.
But the crappy boss and the child dying wasn't her fault. She had nothing to do with that, but yet that was what seemed to pile on all the more. So the things in your relationship that would have been small in a different setting now become huge.
Yeah.
Look huge. I won't say they become huge. They're same size. They just look a little.
They look huge. Yeah, there you go. That's.
It's one more thing in the ton of things going crappy.
Yeah.
So that's where you need to step back and say, okay, is the relationship broken, or is it just the things that are going on are just in addition to what is normally happening bad, but it's not. If I pull myself back and look at just that situation, is it that horrible?
Yeah.
And I think too, it's like we didn't have, hindsight. It's 2020. I'm just a bunch of cliches today.
Love it.
But it was that one decision to commit no matter what. that I think we both made that got us through that. Because I will say there was one point where I was just like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And I was ready to temporarily pack up the kids and go to my mother-in-law's because she was my best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, which most people go like, oh yeah, that's kind of weird. But
Hey, I would love to have a good relationship with my mother-in-law.
it just, it could take time, but yeah, it's just, yeah, it's sometimes you commit when everything within your soul is saying, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And then find ways, and sometimes it's only one person who can say, okay, honey, let's reevaluate, let's look at this or whatever, let's get help. Or sometimes you just have to work it out yourselves separately, and wait till the time you can come back together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, and I think that's that danger point where people are like, why am I doing this? And I did not pack up the kids and go to my mother-in-law's. I mean, and it's just like, when your husband's falling asleep at the dinner table because he's been working so hard and things are so rough. And when this is the thing, when that sleep is his distressor, that's how he processes all this crap. It's bad.
That's painful when you watch your partner and like you can see like you're like, I know that what you're doing is because you're freaking out and like you're not able to help them and they're not in a space where they can receive help from you, and you're just like, I'm just going to trust. And for me, I mean, I think you guys understand. I've said on the channel that I have a faith, but I don't formally identify with any religion for, I think, reasons that you guys probably appreciate because you just know me a little bit better. But what my upbringing was. And so for me, there's a lot of faith that my spiritual deity is going to intervene on my behalf. And I've had to just like to accept, to not get involved. Like, that is hard for me.
It is. And I think sometimes you have to sit on the outside and watch and let them process, and continue to love, even if you can't express that necessarily, because sometimes you just don't know what to say, you don't know what to do, and sometimes it's just best to not say anything and just be there.
Yeah.
And just be present. And so many people just, they just jump ship, and, and it doesn't make it any easier. You may feel some temporary relief.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it makes it any easier.
No. Divorce sucks.
Yeah. So it's just, and knowing too that your partner will do the same for you, because sometimes there's nothing you can say because it's the thing they have to deal with themselves.
Yep. Oh, it's hard. It is hard. Again, I'm a Leo. We like to control things, and it is very difficult when there is something with which we cannot control.
Yep.
But that is something that I think marriage has actually taught me, specifically to my spouse, and that's kind of something that makes me excited about marriage. Is like it's like sharpening the sword, in a way that I couldn't do by myself, but I can do because my husband, I mean, I feel like is so paired so well with me that he challenges in me in ways that I would have never challenged myself, but I needed to grow. I can see it with like my kids. I can see the way I interact with my parents, and it's all like his little fingerprints, that he's like left.
Yeah.
It's that oneness we were talking about.
Yep.
That you grow as an entity now, as one unit, as opposed to two individuals.
Yep. Thanks to our therapist.
Yep.
All right, so before we go, we'd like to do a little weekly win so we can cheers to it. So do you guys have a weekly win for this week? You got anything you're super excited about that you accomplished?
I checked my grades last night, I still have a straight A.
Nuh-uh, even in quarantine. That's amazing. I don't think I've had
So-
straight A's since I was in elementary school.
I am determined. Is my college career was quite. It was went in fits and starts, and I ended up going to 4 different colleges, and I was determined that I was going to basically make my dad really proud. I mean,
Aww.
it was, my dad was just like super, super smart. And I thought, I know I've got it. I just need to get it out there. So that does indeed.
Well, that is an awesome weekly win. What about you, Mr. B?
I don't know that I had any wins other than getting the bricks dug out of our.
That's a win.
It's a huge line of bricks that were all cemented together, and it was.
Well, it was a line of bricks that were standing up like a border on a garden.
Uh-huh.
What he didn't know that was down below the dirt, there was another line that created an L shape that we never saw.
Who did that? Who did that?
So it was like digging out a wall.
Yeah. So half of it's out, which is a good thing.
Hey, that's a major win. A whole wall. I would have just buried it, been like, it's fine. We won't tell anybody that it was there. I don't know why the plants don't grow there. I don't. Not digging that wall out, but that's a win, especially right now. Did you guys have oh no, we just had the storm. You guys probably had decent weather this week. We had rain all week. We literally had 5 days of rain and then a spotty day, and then it was finally a little bit sunny on Saturday, which kind of ties into my weekly win. Last week I said my win was surviving the week, and I feel like every week that's really my win is surviving the week.
Yeah.
But last week, I mean, we couldn't take the kids outside. We couldn't go anywhere. We watched I don't know, 280 hours of television. But we built this, my husband and I, despite all the craziness that was happening, he wasn't able to train any of his clients because he trains them. There's someone who's been able to set up an outdoor gym. And so they've been authorized by the mayor to operate because they're 6 feet apart and safe and all that other stuff. So he wasn't able to train anybody. We were both going stir crazy, but we built this awesome cat climbing structure on one of our walls together.
Oh, cool.
And we didn't fight the whole time.
There you go. It's that shared goal.
That's right. We're both just listen, we need something to do, and the cat's driving us crazy. So
There you go. There you go.
all right. Well, cheers to that, you guys.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you so much again for coming on. This is going to be a super fun episode.